Okay, Miss Jessie, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I
Yeah,
know
thank
you have
you.
a busy school day from what I've heard. You were telling me at lunch that you've been having some issues with your student David during class time. So what I'd like to do is kind of talk about the issue, talk about it more concretely, kind of figure out what exactly it is, and then we can go through, discuss maybe why it's happening.
Okay.
And then try and figure out a plan to get it to stop happening.
Okay.
And then finally, down the road, we'll meet back up and we can go over the data that we
Okay.
gathered and see if what we decided to do actually ended up working.
Okay, that sounds great.
Sounds good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So throughout this whole thing, I want you to know that we're partners.
Okay.
And I am a support for you.
Okay.
You're in the classroom, you're in the trenches, and I'm in the office. So whenever you need help from me or support or you need to vent, just I'm here.
Okay.
All right.
That's good to know.
So now to David.
Okay.
What in general does David's problem behavior look like, and where does it usually occur?
Okay, well, David is usually so well behaved that I am continually shocked by this disruptive behavior that he's begun to exhibit in class. It's driving me crazy. During math time is when it seems to happen. Pretty much never at any other time of the day does this disruptive problem behavior occur. He will just refuse to do his work, and then he will start calling to and talking to his friends or the other students, and sometimes he will go as far as to poke them with something to try and get their attention.
Okay.
And they usually just ignore him, but it still needs to stop. And then sometimes he'll try to make jokes, or he'll get up and walk around the room. He'll sharpen his pencil. He'll get some water. It's just he's out of his seat. And this whole time he's not doing any of his work.
Wow. Okay. That is frustrating.
Yes.
And I imagine that would really affect your ability to kind of engage with other students who may need you.
Yes.
Okay. So you said that he's behaving disruptively, walking around, talking, and he's also not doing his work, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how often would you say that this happens in your class?
Well, let's see. I'd say on average it's happening once a day, usually during math, and it goes the whole time that individual math work is supposed to be completed. So like individual math time is when it's the whole time it's happening.
So the whole time that they're working on their own,
Yes.
he's engaging in these
Yes.
behaviors. All right. Can you give me a specific example of when this situation last occurred?
I can, because one happened earlier today,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Like I said, it was during our math time. I had just finished teaching the class a lesson about graphing, and then we did a few practice problems together, and then I proceeded to pass out an individual worksheet for them to do on their own. After they finished it, we were going to go over it as a class. They're supposed to work on it silently by themselves, but David started whispering to those around him, and I told him to stop, but he kept talking, and he kept getting out of his seat, and he wasn't even attempting the problems on the worksheet that I had passed out.
That would drive you nuts.
It was very frustrating.
Okay. Do your other students ever behave like David does during math time?
Well, I mean, math isn't necessarily everyone's favorite subject. I understand that.
Right.
So occasionally I have some kids that, don't want to do a worksheet, but
Okay.
nothing to the extreme that David is doing. I mean, he won't try any worksheet, like recently he hasn't, and then he's so disruptive. These kids will tend to just sit at their desk. But they're fourth graders, so I understand that there's a moment every now and then, but David's doing it to an extent that's way past what the other students are doing.
So it's a marked difference between him and the other students.
Yes.
What do you think would be an acceptable level of these behaviors for David? I know that ideally we would like him to never be disruptive and
Yeah.
always complete his work. But what's something that you could really live with at this point?
I'd probably say having these types of behaviors maybe occur once a week would be manageable. I just can't deal with him behaving this way every single day. It really worries me for his sake, and it affects my ability to help the other students in terms of their own work completion. I would really like to see him complete all of his classwork worksheets as well. since they don't take a lot of time and they're a big part of his grade. And he's currently not doing that at all.
So you'd be okay with once a week for those disruptive
Yeah,
behaviors,
yeah.
talking, walking around, but you'd really want him to complete all of his math worksheets.
Yes, I would like him to complete all his math worksheets.
We can focus on that.
Okay.
So you described David's disruptive behaviors, like the talking, the occasional poking. I'm assuming it's not hurting other kids.
No,
Okay.
it's not. It's just to get their attention.
Right. Walking around, whispering, not doing his work. So those disruptive behaviors that really affect him and the whole class. Then you also described the failing to complete his work or failing to even attempt it, I think is what you said. What would you say is your biggest concern between those two behaviors? The one that really is most problematic in your opinion?
Well, although I don't like the disruptive behaviors because it disrupts the whole class's work environment, the other kids seem to be doing fine in math as a whole. So I think I'd rather we focused on the fact that he isn't completing his work, and that's probably my biggest concern. If he was completing his worksheet, I would hope that the disruptive behaviors would decrease because he's being more focused. But I get that's a hope on my part.
I think that they may be connected.
Oh, okay.
We can get into that, but
Okay.
I think that that feeling is definitely right.
Okay.
So just to make sure that I have it all, David is engaging in disruptive behaviors like talking to neighbors, poking them, getting out of his seat instead of completing his assigned work. This is happening once a day, every day, during individual math worksheet time.
Yes.
When they're working on their
Yes.
own. And it really lasts for the entire time that they're working by themselves.
Yes, that's right.
He is expected to work silently on and complete the math problems that you've assigned him, but is failing to even attempt them and is instead choosing to engage in disruptive behavior. The other students in the class generally are completing their work consistently, and they aren't having a huge issue with disruptive behaviors like David is. And you said that of these two types of behaviors, the failing to complete his work is really the most concerning.
Yes, that's right.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
I have that all written down here. So I think our first step would be to gather some initial baseline data
Okay.
just to see where he is at currently. Could you possibly keep track of David's behavior during the day? Is it something you could do?
Yeah, I think I could do that. Yeah.
Great. So if you could keep maybe a Post-it note, tiny notepad, whatever you have on hand, and keep track of, just make a tally of when David behaves disruptively.
Okay.
So during that individual math work time,
Okay.
record when that happens. And if possible, I think it would be helpful to also record his work completion.
Okay.
So if he completes a math worksheet, record that as well.
Okay. I'll have those worksheets too because I collect them.
Right. So that should be pretty easy
Yeah.
for you to do.
Yeah, that sounds simple.
So that's something that you feel capable of doing?
Yeah, I do.
Wonderful. Would it be all right if I also popped in during math time sometime this week?
Yeah.
Is there any
Math time's at 10
10? Okay.
10 a.m. and we have math Monday through Friday. So any time that week would be fine to pop in since it seems to be occurring every day.
Okay. I'll plan on maybe stopping in on Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday sounds good.
Great. And then what we'll do is I'll pop in, and then we can schedule another meeting, probably a week from today,
Okay.
and we can talk about the data that you've collected and what I've seen as well.
Okay.
Does
Yeah,
that
that
sound
sounds
all
great.
right?
That sounds great. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so the data that I have here that you've provided me, thank you for doing that. It helps a lot. Shows that there's really a serious issue with his work completion. He really hasn't completed any worksheets. That's not good.
No, it is not.
So now I'd like to see if we can discuss this issue a little bit more in depth and figure out why it's happening.
That
Does
sounds
sound
like,
good?
yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
Great. Does David fail to complete any other assignments for you in class, like language arts assignments? And is he generally disruptive like this during other activities?
Not at all. He pretty much always completes reading and writing assignments and other types of assignments if I give them. And he is no more disruptive than any other student during these activities. And then I've heard from his gym teacher and his music teacher that he behaves very well with them as well. It seems to really only be during seat work time in math.
Yeah, and when I popped in, I definitely saw that.
Yeah.
That's definitely an issue. So I understand what you're doing. So that is interesting. That doesn't seem to happen at any
Yeah.
other point. Can you remember for how long David has been having these issues, like not completing work and behaving disruptively in math?
Yeah, I noticed that his behavior and his incomplete math assignments began around the beginning of the spring semester. He wasn't having issues before then, and since then, his disruptive behavior and his failure to complete his work has definitely gotten worse. It's almost like it's getting worse every day that we keep going with math.
That
So,
would
I'm
drive
at a
you
loss.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have these behaviors been getting worse? I mean, you said that it kind of seems to be getting worse every day, but just overall, have they been getting worse or about staying the same? I'm assuming they haven't been getting better.
I'd say, yeah, they're progressively getting worse. Like as the semester has continued, the information builds on itself. So
Yeah.
like he doesn't even attempt it anymore. So it's definitely getting worse.
And before the new semester, it really wasn't.
It wasn't a problem. No, it wasn't a problem.
That is interesting. And these behaviors are still only occurring during silent math work.
Yes.
So in other situations, these behaviors are much less likely to occur, really no matter what the activity is.
Yes, it is only an issue for math. No matter what we are doing in math, David, and any other situation, is one of my best students and is one of the most focused students I have. It's that he doesn't seem to be happy to do math, but he seems very happy to do reading or writing assignments. It's just not math. He's not compliant at all during math class.
The math is the most problematic time of the day.
Yep.
He could be doing anything else, and he's fine.
Yep.
That's interesting. Can you describe for me then what usually happens right before David acts disruptively and starts to refuse to do his work?
Yeah.
What precedes it?
Yeah. Usually I'm wrapping up instruction for the math lesson that day. We usually just finish trying out some problems together as a class on the board, and then I begin handing out the worksheets to each student. And these worksheets are to be worked on individually. I collect the worksheets at the end when they're all done with them, and we usually go over them right then and there. I grade the individual worksheets later. So during this process, like clockwork, as soon as I start to pass out the worksheets, David will start talking and not touch his paper at all.
Right. That would be extremely frustrating.
It's rough.
So the issue arises after you hand out worksheets for the students to complete on their own.
Yes.
Can you describe for me what usually happens after he starts to engage in these behaviors and not do his work?
Yeah. I guess he continues to talk or do whatever he was doing before, so sometimes it's just sitting there and staring until everybody else is done with their papers, and then I'll collect them. The other kids get a little distracted, but they can kind of get back to being focused.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get him to refocus and to try to do what he's supposed to, but it doesn't seem to be working, and it's causing me to get very annoyed, which is not a good behavior to have as a teacher.
From what I saw, I would get annoyed as well.
That makes me feel a little better, thank you.
What have you tried thus far to kind of make this a little bit better? Change his behaviors.
I've tried to redirect him. I've tried to redirect
Right,
him numerous times. I tell him to stop talking, walking, or doing whatever he's doing, and to concentrate on those problems. Even to say, this is a part of your grade, you need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even had to sometimes resort to speaking to him harshly, especially in the last couple of weeks. And on top of that, I've had to put him out in the hallway a couple times just to try and get his distracting behaviors away from the other students who are trying to complete their work. But none of these things that I've tried seem to be working, and I'm kind of just out of ideas and like standing on the cliff ready to fall. So
Well, we're gonna pull you back
thank you.
together. We will
Excellent.
get through it.
I need it.
So do you think that David has the skills necessary to complete the worksheets that you're giving him?
I really never thought about that. I mean, he never volunteers in class to answer questions, but he also never asks for help either. So all the other students seem to be grasping the material like I would expect them to, but with the new material we're learning now, I guess I haven't seen David attempt any of it. So he might not have the skills to complete these new math. I never thought of that.
All right, that is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So, from the information you provided me, kind of the digging that we've done together, I think that David is engaging in these disruptive behaviors in order to escape the math work that you're
Okay.
setting in front of him.
Okay.
And I think that's also why he's not even attempting it. I think it's because he doesn't have the skills.
Okay.
He hasn't mastered the skills that maybe the other kids have in order to work on the problems.
I gotcha.
So he's talking, yelling out, walking around the room, so as to get away from that math work.
Okay, I understand. That makes sense. I like that. That makes sense. I'd never thought about him not having the skills, and then that's why he was trying to he was just doing all this disruptive behavior to get out of it because he didn't know how to do it. Yeah, I didn't even think about it.
So you think that might be what's
Yeah,
going
I
on
think
is
that
he doesn't have the
fits.
skills, and so he's
Yeah, I think that fits perfectly. Yeah.
Great. So let's roll with that,
Okay.
and let's see if we can figure out some way to intervene to get that math completion up and
Okay.
get the disruptive behaviors going out.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
So overall, what I understand is that you want to see David's disruptive behavior decrease and his work completion increase, like I just said. Specifically, you said you want David to complete all of his math worksheets as a goal,
Mhm.
and you would be able to live with him behaving disruptively once a week during math time.
Yes.
Is that still correct?
Yeah.
So, because we inferred that David is engaging in these behaviors to escape from the work that may be too difficult for him right now, I think that maybe we can go with two possible options
Okay.
for helping the situation.
Okay.
First option would be for you to work with him during that individual math time. So while all the other students are working individually, like you've been having to do, you work with David, obviously quietly, and obviously not provide him with answers, just instruct him individually as you normally would,
Okay.
and be sure to allow him extra practice.
Okay.
Definitely a lot of feedback on what he's doing right, what he may be doing wrong in
Okay.
terms of if you're doing graphing. Also, providing a lot of praise
Okay.
for when he even attempts problems, because he's not attempting them at all right
Yeah.
now. So we would want to get those attempts
Okay.
high up. So
Okay.
really, first option would be to embed that in the individual math work.
Okay.
Provide him that extra support. Another option may be to set aside 10 minutes, kind of take it from the rest of the day,
Okay.
where it's just you and him, where
Okay.
you focus again on instructing him, providing a lot of practice, providing that feedback to him, praising him for attempts, but it would be separate from that math time, and it would be a lot more focused on directly teaching those skills to him for a specified amount of time.
Okay.
So would either of these options be something that you feel you would want to do, that you could do?
Yeah, I like the option of working with him during math time itself to provide him a little extra help when we're all working together. I'd like to see if that works before we plan anything larger and kind of more time consuming.
Yeah, I think that would be good as well to kind of see if he can. This level of support would really help him before we move on to something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That would be easier for you to do. Okay, so can you foresee any barriers that you might have in your classroom that would keep you from implementing this intervention, or any issues that may arise as a result?
No, I mean the other kids in the class may need my help, but I can easily help them and continue to work with David. I don't think that'll be a problem at all.
Okay. Well, if that becomes an issue, then we can reconvene and
Okay.
talk about how to deal with that.
Okay.
If the other kids need more of your attention. But I think that what we've chosen is really going to help to provide him the support, the practice, the feedback that he needs to learn those skills that he currently doesn't have.
I do too.
So what I'll plan on doing is I'll send you over a checklist of some elements of just when you're working with him during that individual work time. Just some of the things that would be really important for you to include, such as praise, feedback, etc. So after you've worked with him, you can go over and check off. Make sure that you've included those things that are really important. Does that sound fine to you if I get that to you today?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So while we're working with David this way, while you're implementing this intervention, I think it's important to continue to collect data.
Okay.
Would it be possible for you to continue to collect the data, the disruptive behavior and the math completion, the way that you have been doing it thus far?
Yeah, just the same way as before.
The exact same way?
Yes, yeah, I do think I can do that. Yeah.
That would be great. So we can monitor what his progress is to see if it's having any effect. Also, could I pop into your math time?
Yeah, the same time as last time worked perfectly. So if you want to come back in on that day, that'll work perfect.
I'll pop in and see how it's going.
Okay.
Also, if you have any questions or any concerns arise when you're doing this, feel free to shoot me an email, come into my office. I'm always here.
Okay.
No matter what it is, you can contact me about it. And then what we'll do is we will. When do you think you can implement this?
Can we start next week so that it's a new week?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
So you want to start on Monday?
Yeah, Monday would be perfect.
So then we'll meet the following Monday.
Okay.
And we can go over the data and see if this is making a mark.
Okay. Yeah, sounds perfect.
Great. All right. Hello again, Miss Jessie.
Hi. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you. I see your graph here.
Yes.
I have. And I see this is your graph, the graph that I made of the data.
Yes.
That David's disruptive behavior really has decreased.
Yes, it has.
How do you feel?
I'm loving this.
Wonderful.
I'm loving it. For the most part, I know we said like go an outburst once every week, and he only had one last week, and otherwise there's been no disruptive behavior. It's been super great.
That is fantastic. You're very happy.
Yes.
Also, I have your data here about his work completion, and I see that he has been attempting a lot more problems.
Yes, he has.
He's been getting a lot more correct because before he wasn't even doing it.
Yes.
So I think that's definitely an indication that those skills are starting to
blossom.
Starting to blossom. Yes, and that is fantastic. I do see though that he isn't completely completing all of the worksheets.
Yeah.
But I think it's a step in the right direction. So I think that the best decision would be to continue this for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Are you still able to?
Yes.
Do you still feel comfortable?
Yes, I do, and I do think it's working so well that I don't really want to stop it.
Great.
So I think it's a good idea to keep going.
So what we'll do is we'll continue this for another week.
Okay.
And hopefully we can get the destructive behaviors to continue to stay at a, once per week.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And also see if we can get that work completion to increase some
Okay.
more. And then we'll meet again, go over it again. And then you and I can maybe discuss after that, if we continue to see these trends, how we can fade that intervention.
Okay.
Because it's not something that you want to be doing
Yeah.
all of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that sound like a
That
good
sounds
plan?
like a great plan. Yes.
Great. So I will get in touch with you about meeting again.
Okay.
And I thank you so much for coming in to see
Yes,
me.
thank you for helping me.
I'm glad that we are seeing these really great results.
Yeah, it's really helping me out. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. It's been a much easier experience than I thought it would be. So thank you.
Wonderful.
You're great. You're such a